Imagine this for a second. One region surrounded by nuclear weapons, terror groups, military bases, Chinese infrastructure, and some of the world's largest armies. A place where one mistake could pull India, Pakistan, and China into a massive crisis. That place is Kashmir. But here is the shocking part. Kashmir is not just about land anymore. It is about water, trade routes, China's rise, India's security, Pakistan's survival, and the future balance of power in Asia. Most people think Kashmir is just an old India-Pakistan issue. But in reality, Kashmir has become one of the most important geopolitical flashpoints on earth. And what happens there in the next 10 years could reshape the future of South Asia itself. So why is Kashmir so important to India? Why does Pakistan keep fighting over it? Why is China deeply involved now? And why are global powers quietly watching every move in the region? This story is much bigger than most people realize. How this conflict began? To understand Kashmir, we need to go back to 1947. British India was divided into two countries, India and Pakistan. At that time, princely states had to choose which country to join. Jammu and Kashmir was ruled by Maharaja Hari Singh. He initially wanted to stay independent, but then something changed everything. Armed tribal fighters backed from Pakistan entered Kashmir. There were reports of violence, looting, and attacks during the invasion. As the situation worsened, the Maharaja requested military help from India. India agreed after the signing of the Instrument of Accession, the legal document through which Jammu and Kashmir acceded to India in 1947. This remains the legal foundation of India's position today. But the war did not fully end the dispute. The region was divided. India controlled one part, Pakistan controlled another part, now called Pakistan-occupied Kashmir by India. Later, China also took control of Aksai Chin after the 1962 India-China war. And from that moment, Kashmir stopped being just a regional issue. It became a geopolitical battlefield between multiple nuclear powers. Why India sees Kashmir as non-negotiable? For India, Kashmir is not viewed as temporary territory. India's position is very clear. Jammu and Kashmir legally acceded to India in 1947. And this matters because countries rarely give up territory they officially considered part of their nation, especially when the territory sits in a highly strategic location. But this is not about only law, it is also about national security. India already faces military pressure from Pakistan in the west and China in the north and east, and Kashmir sits directly between these rival powers. This creates one of India's biggest strategic fears, a two-front challenge involving both China and Pakistan. This is why Indian governments across political parties have treated Kashmir as a critical national security issue for decades. Because from India's perspective, weakness in Kashmir could encourage larger strategic pressure in the future. And then there is another important factor, identity. India sees itself as a multi-religious and diverse country. So Kashmir, a Muslim-majority region remaining part of India, became symbolically important in India's national story. And this made the issue even more emotionally and politically sensitive. The geography that makes Kashmir so important. Now look at the map carefully. Kashmir connects some of Asia's most sensitive military zones: India, Pakistan, China, Central Asia nearby. This is not ordinary geography, this is strategic geography. High in these mountains sits Siachen Glacier, the highest battlefield in the world. Even surviving there is difficult. Temperatures can drop below minus 50 degrees Celsius. Yet soldiers remain deployed there year after year. Why? Because whoever controls these heights gains military advantage over critical mountain routes. Now add China into the picture. China controls Aksai Chin. Pakistan controls territory claimed by India. India controls Jammu, Kashmir Valley and Ladakh. This means all three nuclear powers are operating around connected border regions. And this becomes even more important because of one major Chinese project, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor or CPEC. This project connects Western China to Pakistan's Gwadar port, and parts of this corridor passes through territory claimed by India. For China, this corridor is strategically valuable. It gives Beijing access toward the Arabian Sea and strengthens China's partnership with Pakistan, which means Kashmir is now connected to the large power struggle happening across Asia. The water factor. Now here is something many people ignore. Kashmir is also about water, and in the future, water may become as important as oil. Several major rivers connected to the Indus River system flow through this region. These rivers are extremely important for Pakistan's agriculture, food supply, and economy. For decades, India and Pakistan managed water sharing through the Indus Water Treaty signed in 1960. Even during wars, the treaty survived. But after the 2025 terror attack crisis in Kashmir and rising tensions between both countries, India suspended participation in the treaty. And suddenly, water security became part of the geopolitical conflict itself. This is why experts say Kashmir is not only a border dispute anymore. It is also connected to climate pressure, river control, food security, and long-term regional stability. Because in the future, countries may fight not only for land but for water too. The human side of the conflict. But geopolitics is not only about maps and armies, it is also about people. And this is where Kashmir becomes deeply emotional and complicated. The region has experienced decades of violence, militancy, terrorism, political distrust, military operations, and fear. Thousands of civilians and security personnel have lost their lives over the years. In the 1990s, many Kashmiri Pandits were forced to flee the valley during the insurgency. At the same time, many Muslim families in Kashmir also suffered through violence, instability, and conflict. And this is important to understand honestly. Kashmir is not politically simple. Different regions have different identities. Jammu, Kashmir Valley, Ladakh. Different religious communities, different political opinions, different experiences. Some people strongly support India, some support Pakistan, some want independence, and many ordinary people simply want peace, jobs, stability, and normal lives. This complexity is one reason the conflict has lasted so long. Because every side sees Kashmir differently. Article 370 and India's big shift. Then came one of the biggest turning points in modern Indian politics. In 2019, India removed Article 370, which had given Jammu and Kashmir special constitutional status. Supporters called it full integration with India. Critics called it controversial and politically risky. But geopolitically, the decision sent a powerful message. India was showing that it wanted tighter political and administrative control over the region. At the same time, India increased investments in roads, tunnels, military logistics, railways, and border infrastructure in the region. Because modern geopolitics is not only about soldiers anymore. Infrastructure is power, roads are power, bridges are power, data networks are power. And countries today compete through development as much as through military strength. But despite these changes, security challenges and political tensions still remain. Which brings us to the biggest question of all, what happens next? Why the world watches Kashmir? For years, many countries treated Kashmir as a regional issue. But now the world is changing fast. China is rising. India is becoming a major global power. The United States sees India as an important strategic partner in Asia. Pakistan is becoming closer to China. And suddenly, Kashmir sits inside a much larger geopolitical competition. Today, India is not the same country as it was decades ago. India is now one of the world's largest economies, a nuclear power, a major military force, and an increasing important technology and space power. This changes global calculations. At the same time, China's military presence along the Himalayan border has increased in recent years, especially after the Galwan Valley clash in 2020. And this created a major concern for Indian strategists. What if India faces pressure from both China and Pakistan at the same time? That is one reason India has rapidly expanded military infrastructure in Ladakh and border regions. Because in modern warfare, speed and logistics matter as much as weapons. And this is exactly why Kashmir remains one of the most sensitive geopolitical regions on earth. Not because of mountains alone, but because it sits at the intersection of history, identity, nuclear weapons, water security, and the future balance of power in Asia. At the end of the day, Kashmir is not just a local conflict, it is a pressure point between rising powers. For India, it is about sovereignty, security, and strategic survival. For Pakistan, it is tied to identity, water security, and regional balance. For China, it is linked to long term strategic ambitions and trade routes. And for ordinary people living there, it is about peace, dignity, stability, and the hope for a normal future. The mountains of Kashmir may look silent, but behind those mountains, some of the biggest geopolitical battles of the 21st century are already unfolding. And the real question is no longer why does Kashmir matter? The real question is what happens to Asia if this conflict is never truly resolved? Is India prepared for what comes next?